We are back. Actually, I'm back. Cordless?
Yeah, g'day Mick. Great to have you back, mate, from the States. And just a pre-warning to all the listeners out there that we are both violently sick. So
I'm not violently.
Well, I'm violently sick, so you're in the room with me at the moment. So if there's any sniffing or sneezing going on, just take note of that. But mate,
Just assume it's cordless.
Just great to have you back, mate. And for those that were following the all-out travel Instagram photos, you would have seen that you were in America for about 4 weeks.
Yeah.
How was that, mate?
Put in a good shift overseas. 3 weeks in America. Went to like Chicago, New York, down to Dallas. Bit of trek. Good to be back though.
Well, you did miss out on a fair lot of NRL, mate. And I want to ask you this because, correct me if I'm wrong, you went to a baseball game over there.
Oh, I did go to a baseball game. Now there's a random Souths guy in every field.
Yeah.
There's a random Red V fan. Wore the Red V jersey to the Yankees game. Not one person commented on it. I thought there would have been one Aussie being like, Red V stink, or something like that. No, it was good. Baseball's sick.
Mate, I'll ask you this. Was there anything that you found different watching a baseball game with the American fans that you might not see from an Australian perspective? Something different watching an American sport in an American crowd rather than the Australian sport in an Australian crowd?
Well, the beers are like a bucket. That's weird.
A bucket?
Mate, it'd be like that high, I reckon.
And
It'd be like a liter. It'd be like a liter of beer.
Does it set you back more than what a pint would at the pub? So like, let's say at an expensive pub, we're saying like $14.
Probably a bit cheaper. Wasn't too bad.
But yeah.
But the beer was warm.
Anything about like the atmosphere? Is it?
Atmosphere's good, but it's pretty like, unlike Test cricket, like every single like the crowd celebrates. You're sort of waiting for just a home run. That's like the main like thing you're waiting for. And I didn't see one. Not one.
But yeah, your brother actually plays over there in the rugby union competition in America.
The MLR.
MLR.
Yeah.
And I think most Australians would be a bit surprised about how big it actually is over there.
It is big. Well, McLean plays in Chicago, so there's a lot of Irish that settled over there. So obviously it's big with that crowd, but I think it's just, like, there's a lot of rules in union, obviously. I think Americans, like NFL, for example, there's that many rules. I think and plus there's no pads, stuff like that. It's probably the most, like, physical sport in the world, you could argue. Similar league.
Yeah, and
that's where it gets its popularity, I think, over there.
And the amount of money in the competition as well took me a bit by surprise when you told me the contracts that they're worth on.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of under the table stuff. Like, it's a bit seedy stuff going on. I won't comment on the LA team with Marnono and co. But yeah, there's a few good players, but obviously not as good as other competitions around the world.
Yeah, mate. Over the week, we've had the Ashes in Headingley finish up. What were your thoughts on that before we crack on to some NRL Fantasy content?
Look, solar panel Pat, I thought his captaincy was interesting. Look, I think you'd agree. There's a few interesting decisions from him, fielding-wise, rotation-wise with the bowlers. Todd Murphy, mate. Like, I rate him. He's an up-and-comer, but he was bowling in the death clutch situations. What are you doing?
No,
respectfully.
So this is the way
That's
I
respectfully as well. Yeah.
Solar panel Pat. I think he's a good captain, but there's certain instances in that Headingley test where he got found out, and
100%.
They needed 70 odd runs to win. The tail had started, and we had reverted to these short ball tactics that we've been playing the whole series, and it just doesn't work. Like you saw in the first innings that Mark Wood just steps back and smacks him for 6 over the short boundary. It doesn't work.
It depends. Like, it works to some batters, but we seem to be switching our plans like too frequently, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Like, a new batter will come in, we'll switch plans. We're going, we just got 3 people out for 50 runs, and we've just changed plan.
Yeah, and look, if Nathan Lyon played that test, I'm certain he bowls 20 overs in the second innings. I don't think we win. Well, it's hard to say,
I
but
thought you declared him overrated, mate.
no, I declared him not a match winner. But if Nathan Lyon plays, he bowls at least 20 overs. And I don't see why we'd change that tactic anyway when Murphy comes in. He bowled 1 over before lunch, and then he bowled the second last over of the game. And
yeah, look, these are a lot of negatives. I'll give you one positive: the Bison.
Yeah,
what
Bison.
A player! He is back. He is so back.
He was ultra impressive, and he's almost undroppable for the 4th test in Manchester. Would you say?
Here's what we do: we drop Warner, we put head to open, we put Marsh down the order. Then we can still have Cam Green in the team. Who says no?
Well, it's a week away now, mate. The next test.
Yeah,
so,
I can't wait.
But we'll crack on to some NRL fantasy content. So we should, mate, because I think we've just spent 10 minutes.
I think this is called
on.
the NRL Fantasy Podcast, isn't it?
This is what's going to be the stuff like for All Out Club, mate. All Out Club, all sports, and make sure you follow that Instagram and the TikTok and
stuff,
All Out NBA, mate, as well. You're a bit heavily involved in that one.
Look, I love NBA. We're venturing into that market. I'm just going to say, watch this space. That's what I'll leave it with.
Well, last week, the last major buy round, Mick, the all-out team scored 676 and moved up 214 ranks.
Yep.
So we're on the verge of that top, cracking that 2K mark. And good news for this week is that, and we'll get to TLT, that most of the people that play Origin tomorrow night are backing up. So
yeah, well, usually in the team list, like they say, backing up. But you just gotta look at Dawes stories, late mail especially. There's always at least one or two Origin players who are named but then pull out, obviously due to little injuries they pick up in the game. So
I think you jotted down a few notes there about TLT for this week, round 20. And the good news about round 20, Mick, is that we got the 8 extra trades.
It's huge
for all the coaches. I've gone from 5 to 13.
I'm up to 11 now. Still scarily low, but this is what Supercoach just lacks, you know. This is why we don't have a Supercoach podcast. Because those boys don't get extra trades.
No.
This is why we want a sponsorship from the NRL.
And to our Supercoach friends, Lachlan Agnew, who's sitting on 3 trades at the moment.
I assume he's listening.
With 7 weeks to go. He's in strife. Absolute strife. Yeah.
Look, this is good for Daw, because I think Daw every single year really struggles that back end of the year. He's like, oh, nah, I'll use all my trades now and then I won't have to make a change. Mate, injuries happen. You got to assume injuries happen.
That's right.
We'll go on to the team list.
Yeah, go on to the team list.
I've just noted down some highlights from the team list. For the Titans, Jaden Campbell reverts the interchange for AJ Brimson. So that's assuming he backs up Brimo. Nathan Cleary for the Penrith is named in the reserves and could make an early return. I think he will. What do you think?
Cleary? Well, if he's fit and ready to go, yes, I think he'll play. Obviously.
True.
But do you bring him in straight away into your team, or do you wait a week?
Well, who do they verse? I'll quickly check that just before I go on. Look, they verse the Dolphins. Maybe he does. It's also, that game's also on the Sunday, so he's got plenty of time. Brandon Smith headlines several returns for the Roosters. Look, I won't say he's an early buy, but there's a few stuff to look at there.
He's got Jakey Turpin
Turpin
starting. He's starting, and Brandon Smith is off the bench. So whether Brandon goes into that 13 role or prop role we'll wait and see. But Turpin could be our sell in a couple of weeks.
Definitely.
Or next week.
Kafusi returns to the back row, pushing Kenny Bromwich to prop. Obviously, that has ramifications on, Lemueli. But again, with all this stuff, especially Wayne Bennett, I think Tavare got dropped as well.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
Yeah, it's really tough. I think he was on the buys for last week, so you can attack us, all our community, but who's really to blame? I think Wayne is there. Dean Madison is named to debut via the interchange. Not sure I've noticed. Put that down to note, but yeah, could be a buy. Kurt Capewell returns from injury. Jacob Carreras shifts to centre with Blake Wilson retaining his wing spot. That's definitely one to note because Wilson's a stud.
He is a stud.
He's a dog.
He is a stud.
He's a dog. I think he could be a buy. Api Coruscant also returns earlier than expected. Simpkin, see you, mate. Dane Gagai returns in place of Tualawa. And that's about it.
That is about it. And Dawes sends his apologies as he's off to work, 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. shift, so he'll be back next week on the pod. But he has sent some messages here. He said the holds for this week, and depending on what they decide to do with Cleary, what they decide to do with Brandon Smith, but he's got Cogger and Turpin down as a hold, and he's looking to buy Nelson or Sofa Solomona this week. Yeah, he's got.
I rate this from Daw.
He's got a break even of 15, and Daw says here, and I quote, he eats on the edge.
He does go there.
That's one for the sleepers to look out there for, and he's also put down here as JMK as a sell with his shoulder issues now, and Payne Haas and Carrigan, the Broncos duo there, as holds as Carrigan was rested, and Haas.
This is good stuff from Daw.
Has another week off, so yeah, there's a few buy hold sells for you in regards to fantasy. Looking ahead, mate, for this week, we have a few teams here with the bye that is going to cause some headaches. We got the Rabbits with the bye, the Warriors with the bye. No, sorry, the Rabbits with the bye and the Dragons with the bye. I saw BMM with the bye and I forgot he's at the Dragons.
BMM, mate. He's a stud.
There's a few implications there with the middles because you have Murray who's out, Cook who's obviously a hooker, but you also have DeBellin as one. Do you have any sleeper mids or that you could pick up there, mate? Having a look because Haas is out as well.
Look, I think Tarpany's a great buy, but they do have a buy, which is a bit of an issue there.
So you got,
I think the two sort of underpriced ones I'm looking at are Madison, Tohu Harris. Tohu Harris has been so consistent. I know I had one person in our comment section roasting him as a buy last week, but he's got back-to-back 60s, an average of 53 this season, then that's including lower scores due to injury, so he's definitely one to get in. And Maddo has dropped 108k this year due to injuries and playing the halves and stuff like that, so he's definitely one to look at.
Yeah, I'd like it. And like that mid's going to be causing a few problems there for coaches this week, so Tohu Harris definitely a sleeper buy there on the way home. I think he's done with their buys now as well. So if I was a coach and an expert, which obviously I aren't, I'd be getting people in that have finished their buys. So I think the Broncos still have a buy. Parramatta still have a buy. And it's interesting for those that are playing in the finals, and if we get into the finals, that you should keep your trades up your sleeve just to trade those Parramatta blokes.
Always should be keeping trades as any way you can.
Because if you have the Madisons, the Hopgoods, the Moses, they don't play that last round. You got to get rid of them. Otherwise, you got upwards of $2 million on the bench. You
got to think long game, as I always say.
And I'll ask you this: as someone who's out of the 8 for our comp at the moment, would you?
Just say you are, not me.
Yeah, no, maybe. just say I have 9 trades left, hypothetically. Would you go all in to get yourself into the finals, or would you play your hand and save your trades with a chance of missing the finals? What would you do there? Because it's
a tough one.
That was a question in the DMs that was asked.
I'd probably play my hand if you're out of the 8. I think this is a good week to especially in overall, this is a good week to gain some ranks maybe and overlap people in your head-to-heads just because you know there's going to be a lot of Origin people out, and if you're looking to bias people in and not trying to have those red dots, you could definitely make some money moves. Yeah,
I like it. Speaking of Origin, mate, tomorrow night down in Sydney, as Queenslanders, we're going for the sweep. Yeah. And I'll get your take, mate. I talked to Flatley last week about their side, but what do you think of the whole selections and Fittler's thought process here?
Look, Fittler, respectfully, with all due respect, I think this is your last game, even if you win by 70 points. His selections are nothing short of delusional. Respectfully.
Nothing short of diabolical.
I know I've said respectfully a few times. Look, I I was up, I think it was 5 a.m. when I watched Game 2 in America. Straight away, Turbo gone. It was the obvious choice. We've talked about this in the podcast before about possible, pill Union are looking for. We talked about Murray. He'd be the 12 for the Wallabies, in my opinion.
He'd be
the inside centre for the Wallabies. He's played there before, even for the Rabbitohs, I believe. And he's gone for 5'5" Damien Cook.
Yeah.
It was a tough watch. It was a hugely tough watch. And for Freddie, I actually think Brandy should be going first. Brandy has no accountability whatsoever, especially in the media. Just take it on the chin. You made mistakes, and he doesn't admit it.
So is Brandy a selector? Is that his role?
He's a chief advisor. So
chief advisor.
You'd assume
This is how I compare Brandy, and this is how I would compare him. Brandy is the George Bailey of New South Wales origin. He is too. This is my synopsis of both Bailey and Brandy. They are too close to the players, so they're more friends with the players than they are selectors. They should be keeping like an arm's length away, so they don't build these relationships as such.
Yeah.
So then, when it comes to dropping these players, you can drop him. Like I think George Bailey is way too close with David Warner. That's why they're not dropping him.
It's because he's so recently retired. Like he's played with some of these people, and I think, like obviously you could say that about Queensland, but Queensland's different because we had a run of we won 9 years in a row.
Yeah.
Like these players hold that much weight within our side. Like what do you think of the Bradman Best selection? The thing I thought about was obviously he had a cracker game the day before selection. They're thinking recency bias as an all-time high, but also Fittler's coached Best since like under 19's origin.
Yeah.
So he obviously favours him over someone who hasn't coached. Which is that the right selection for the benefit of the team? It's yet to be seen. But
who knows? Look,
it doesn't look great.
I actually like Bradman Best as a player, and if I was backing someone to come out and actually have a good game for New South Wales, it could be him. He's an impact player.
Look, he doesn't pass, but he's a great line runner, runs hard, I agree.
If it was... The thing I don't get is that you pick Clint Gutherson on the bench, who has been playing good footy, but has absolutely no role when he comes onto the field.
Freddie's even come out and said, this is quoted by Clarkie's NRL column, not by Clarkie, but it's within his post, that he doesn't yet have a plan for him. Like he doesn't know what to do.
And that was the same as
Keep
Hines.
that to yourself.
That was the same with Hines in game 1, and they still dropped him after that 10 minutes that he had. It's all over the shop for me, and I agree with you what you said. I think Fittler will coach his last game this Wednesday, tomorrow. Do you have a replacement? I asked Flats last week, and he said Ricky Stewart's the man to replace him, and then Madge goes into the Raiders role. What do you think?
Yeah, I think you definitely got to get someone who doesn't coach an NRL side. There's simply too much stuff you got to do behind the scenes, especially. I think that's a good suggestion from Flats, like Ricky Stewart stepping down from necessarily Raiders head coach, but it's tough because New South Wales can't get someone like Billy Slater, who's recently retired, because we had a dynasty, if you know what I mean. Like, how can you be like Paul Gallen, for example? If he's head coach of New South Wales, he himself won one Origin series.
Yeah, it wasn't very. His record was not very good.
And Joey Johns, I think Matty Johns would be a good option. There's my take.
Matty Johns
and Joey Johns together, but problem with that is their chemistry is a bit off at the moment.
Yeah, very off.
Hashtag hope you're listening, Matty Johns.
No, but I agree. Another name that was brought up was Boyd Gordner.
Yeah. I don't mind
he was
that.
brought up. The only problem with me, and this was the same as Billy. Billy came into the role with absolutely no coaching experience and has done wonders. So I can't really comment on Boyd Gordner's experience, but you go through that Queensland roster, man, and you just look at the ages next to him.
I'd be very worried if I was the New South Wales listener, respectfully.
Anyway, we'll crack on. Q&A for the fantasy. Which teams have finished all their buys for the season? And Reigns here has done an absolute wonder and responded here and has gone, the Sharks,
Rainsy.
Titans, Tigers, Knights and Panthers have all finished their buys. And I think the Storm have as well. which he hasn't put. So there's all those ones. Mick Rogers says, could B. Smith, I'm presuming that's Brandon, be a buy if he returns this round?
Who was that, sorry?
Could Brandon Smith be a buy this round?
Yeah. Look, if he comes off the bench, which he might still, I wouldn't get him. I'd give him maybe 1 week. You've got time to play. I'd give it 1 week.
Hey lads, reckon I should get rid of Haas for Tino. I'm short a mid for this round and already have JDB, Horse, Hopgood and Harris. So he's trading Haas. It's risky trading a man like Haas, mate, because he's just so elite.
Once he comes back, Haas is going to be a round winner because people will have traded him. It's tough. Like, he could be out for 2 weeks, could be out for 3. If it's 2, I'm going to hold.
Yep.
But it's situational. Like, if you're really struggling and you got to get points ASAP. ASAP Rocky. Look, I'd do that, but obviously Tino could be laid out as well.
Jack says here, Cook to Blake Brayley and Buller to Tohu Harris. It's a bit sideways, I think, that one.
Not so sure about Blake Brayley, respectfully.
Mitch says, what to do with Cheese? What should I do with Jake Turbin? Should I sell with the Cheese coming back?
What's his break even? Do we know? I'd personally probably sell. I think he's probably peaked as well. Just depends who to. If you can go Turpin to the Bulldogs winger, definitely Wilson.
Oh, Wilson, yeah, for sure. Ben says, should I get Cam Munster, DC or SJ?
Cam Munster, DC or SJ?
Recency bias, you say SJ, but
I'm leaning toward DCE there.
Yeah, DCE's been
He'll
good.
Be brimming with confidence.
Yeah, and he's playing the bye round. They're all playing this week, so look, I don't think you can go really wrong with either of those 3 options. But I'd probably avoid Cam Munster. There's more downside to Munster than there is DC and SJ.
Yeah,
do you agree?
I think so. Yeah.
So if I was going to pick there, I'd go SJ. They're DCE, but they're both good options. I have 669k. Should I buy Teddy or Dylan Edwards? Now, Teddy's been absolutely diabolical this year, fantasy-wise. And Edwards sort of has a streak where he's unbelievable and then is absolutely dog shit for fantasy-wise. Like, he's obviously a good player.
Yeah.
But fantasy-wise, he just goes for these streaks that are really good and then are really bad as well. So
I'd go probably Deadwoods. Like, he's got the Dolphins and the Doggies, and he also doesn't have a bye for the rest of the season, so I think that's a good option.
Yeah. Well, that was all the TLT.
Lovely.
Not TLT, Q&A. Is there any more comments before we wrap it up? There was not much really to report for fantasy-wise. It all sort of comes together. Like, once you hit round 20, you get all the guns in your team and all the cheapies sort of like... There's not as many cheapies compared to
there's
what
not
you want
as
in your
many
team.
to talk about, especially this end of the season. But I guess the landscape's changed with those extra trades. I guess maybe you got time. You can afford to wait, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. You know, if you got a couple of cheapies that you think, I got to get a gun in ASAP. Look, you got a bit of time. You got 5 more rounds. You got plenty of trades, you'd hope. But yeah.
I wouldn't stress too much about the trades now, considering the 8 extra.
That shouldn't be a stress of yours.
But yeah, make sure you follow the All Out Club as well on TikTok and Instagram. All Out NBA, you're heavily involved in that. Podcast coming, I've heard. And recent
podcast is coming. I said watch this space earlier. Watch this specific space because we'll probably be here. So.
And yeah, I think we'll catch you next week.
Catch ya.